Welcome to the end of season 21-22 podcast, end of season review with myself, Adam, and with Michael Holland, and we're joined by the gaffer, Neil Young. Neil, thanks very much for joining us.
No problem, lads. You okay?
Yeah, I think everyone's been all smiles, haven't they?
For a week, yeah.
I've got a number of questions. Michael, if you want to start us.
Yeah, just very basic reflection on promotion a week later. What's your thoughts on obviously getting promoted?
Well, first and foremost, obviously going back to last week, we were elated to get, to be able to get promoted. From a personal point of view, unfortunately with the managers, you say you will enjoy it, but you already got one eye on what comes next from a managerial perspective. But I do think, from a player's perspective, they have to enjoy it. You don't always have great times in football. I've had the good and the bad, and usually find that people over-egg the bad more than they praise the good in football. So, as I said to the lads last week, it's about making sure they enjoy the moments, staff as well. From a personal perspective, very satisfied with what we achieved and what we have achieved in a short space of time we've been here, obviously with the COVID situation. But yeah, it's a case now of looking forward.
So one thing we really want to touch on is how we finished the domestic season in the league. Matchday 38 finished with a 3-0 defeat to Leek. And then to go from there to then go to Workington and put in the performance that we did, and then as well then going to Runcorn and then that performance, the stakes so high. What does that tell you about the mentality of your team?
I think all along, personally, and I think I tried to put it out there in various interviews, I wasn't too concerned around the group in terms of the ability to get over the line. My biggest concern was having people fit enough to play in the games that mattered, the semi-final and final. Once the league title was gone, probably 4 or 5 games before, or even weeks before, it was all about making sure that we had everyone as fit as they possibly could, and enough game time in the legs, to compete in a semi-final and hopefully a final. I've done that before. I think it was back in 2009 or 2010 with Colwyn Bay, very similar. Once we were in the playoffs, it was a case of making sure that we had our best available team. We study them 3 teams, that we potentially could play. We do a lot of work on them. And then it's all about, people talk about home advantage. It's a semi-final and a final. Very rarely you play a semi-final and final at home in any competition. The more important thing for me and the staff was making sure that we got enough minutes, got people who've had muscle injuries, manage them through the final games to get to us, to give us the best opportunity in that semi-final up at Workington. I did never doubt the players' resilience or the players' ability, but it's like anything in football, you've seen it at the top level with Liverpool last year when they lost 2 or 3 defenders. You lose so many players continually, and particularly when you've got a fairly young team, that confidence, when you do lose, confidence will struggle with that. But the key thing is you keep them positive. And as I said, once I knew we could get the players on the pitch that we needed, then I had no doubt that this team squad would achieve big things.
Do you think the experience of, like, obviously since you've been here, you've gone to Chester, haven't you? In these one-off games, like Chester, Havant, Waterlooville, Colchester, and even Wrexham this season, do you think that experience in the final and the semi-final helped the team?
I think experience in anything, isn't it? In anything you do in life, will it be in your normal job, will it be your family or what you do? Experience always helps. Being in that situation always helps. Being involved in big games where you've got to make key decisions always helps, which we had to, I think, in the final, and planning how you set yourselves up in semis and finals, because I know people talk about Neil getting a goal in the 97th minute up at Workington, and ultimately that was what got us into this extra time and win the game. But I thought in both games we were the better team in both games. So generally, it's just experience always helps. As you say, the experiences I've had at Marine since I've been here, and the big cup ties that we've had. But going back, as I mentioned before, about going back to playing Cairns and Ashton away and Lancaster away, probably it was over 10 years ago now. Very similar situation in this league. I just worked on that what we done there, really. That was our process there, and it worked. And you know, that's the process we used here, and thankfully that worked as well.
Just going to go on to this, just going number 3, the support. I mean, obviously when you came, you're probably lucky to get 300 at home. I mean, this season the average is 1,100, and then to have 600 or 700 there on Saturday, and even 100 at Workington. I mean, what do you think about the support this season for me?
The support's been unbelievable, hasn't it? You know, home and away, and it's difficult. You know, it's difficult. Some of the travelling we've had to do. I mean, support up at Workington in particular on a Tuesday night. I mean, I got in at 10 to 3, I think, back in the house. So supporters probably got in similar time or just a little bit earlier. That's a big commitment, particularly in the current circumstances that we're in financially. As you know, people are struggling financially. We've obviously had on the back of COVID. You know, so the support from the supporters has been massive throughout the season. I'm just glad we've been able to be paid the faith that they've shown in us in getting the club promoted. You know, as you say, when we first came in, there was 2 or 3. I remember turning up at my first training session. I think it was I think I got the job on a Wednesday or the Thursday. I remember turning up at my first training session. Ian Johnson, first time I've met Ian, who's obviously a good friend now. I think we had 7 training. We were playing top of the league on the Saturday at Warrington. And I mean, I spoke to Ian about this a few weeks back, and we, you know, where we are now to where we were on that day, both from a football perspective, but also as a fan perspective. As you said, you know, Mike, 300, 350. Now you're averaging somewhere up at 12, 1,300. So in a very short space of time, we've come a long way. But it's about phases, isn't it? And I found in football, particularly in football, people move on very quickly. You know, you win a league or you get promoted, people are asking you the next day, what are you going to do next year? I think you've got to be realistic, but you've also got to enjoy the things that you do well.
Absolutely. When you look back across this season, the injuries, the catalogue of injuries, we should say, been very well documented as well, with David Raven calling retirement on his football career on the field. At one point, we were 8 points clear. Can you pinpoint to where we fell behind as a result of all of them injuries, that Joyce leaving, David retiring? Can all of them sum up how we sort of felt from, you know, leading the league as we did?
Yeah, well, I think we managed injuries really well. For a while, we beat Warrington at home in the FA Cup, and you know, we changed. That was the first time I think we played a back 3. So, but it's like anything, when you've got young players, while you're going along and winning football matches, their confidence stays high. If you ask them to play out of position or whatever, the young men at the end of the day who need confidence. Now, obviously, when you lose a game like we did at Bootle, at home to Bootle, with a sellout crowd, confidence is dented, and it was difficult to come back from. I think from a staff perspective, we identified Bradford away, Bradford Park Avenue away was at the point where we started to go the other way from being up there, and I thought we should have won there. But again, if you look at the day there, we didn't have a team. I think Ravo got there at half time. We made the change, and we should have won the game. We were the better team second half, 3-3, lost on penalties, which we hadn't done. And I think from a confidence perspective, that knocked us. But also, that's when we started getting the catalogue of injuries like I've never, ever seen before, you know, from then until probably a week before the season finished, even going into the final games. You know, we were missing 3 or 4 players. We lost, I think in the last 5 games, I think I lost 3 players in the warm-up.
Obviously, I've only seen this stat. You've won 6 promotions in 11 seasons, which is quite incredible considering only 2 go up, don't they? Top and playoffs. I mean, do you think that's down to the work you do, you know, the analysis on teams and stuff like that? I mean, you must be immensely proud of that record.
I am, because I think it's been well documented. I started on park pitches on a Sunday morning, and plotted my way through in terms of where I went, you know. And if someone would have said to me, probably 20 plus years ago now, definitely was 20 plus years ago now, and when I was managing Queen's Park in the Birkenhead Sunday League, who I played for, that I, you know, obviously moved on and managed in Europe, or assistant manager in Europe, coached in Europe in the Europa League and the UEFA Cup. To be able to do that, and then on the back of that, gain 6 promotions, as you said, in 11 seasons, and a third round of the FA Cup, and have the third round, be on the third round of Match of the Day. No, I would never have believed you. But I think it's like anything. You know, you have your bad times in football. We go back to what you said before, Michael, about experiences. And in football, you tend to find not always, because outside people don't know what's going on inside. It's not always that easy to explain to people. But I think from my perspective, I've always done whatever I've done. If I'm going to do it, I always say to myself, even in the bad days, you know, even in the bad days, that I've got to work as hard as I possibly can, because if I don't do everything I possibly can to win a game, in terms of analysis or watching teams, where I could, you know, go and watch somebody on a Tuesday, or take the option of sitting at home and watching a Champions League game. If I ever didn't go and watch the game and we lost on the Saturday, then I'd be beating myself up for a while. And I think it's that fear of failure for me is the biggest fear for me, you know. And I've said that before. But yeah, over 11 seasons, 6 promotions. You know, I'm very, very pleased with that. But that doesn't just happen with me. You've got to have good people around you, and I would like to think in my career and the years that we haven't had promotions, I've always had good people around me who've helped me, and I've been able to trust, because that's a key part of any. You know, I am quite intense. You know, I think people will tell you that. I think the club will probably tell you that if you ask them. But it's about standards and setting standards and not falling below them standards, and that's the way we try and work. But as I say, you know, I'm the manager, and I'm the person who gets the bouquets, but also if I don't perform, get everything that comes with the bad side of football. But you know, as I say, immensely proud of what's been achieved in the years I've been doing it.
With all the accolades, as you rightly mentioned, throughout your fantastic career as a manager and as part of a coaching team, where does the achievement of not just winning the promotion, but how you done it, the fact that you went to Workington on a Tuesday night, just 3 days after losing to League Town, and then again, you know, going then to Runcorn and the win there, where does that stack up?
I know it might sound really strange when I say this, but League Town for me, I know it worried other people that we got beat 3-0, and quite comprehensively, although it was a 3-1. We came back into it second half a little bit, but I wasn't bothered, honestly. I knew the 3 points were getting deducted. We knew then that was happening, but I knew it was about Tuesday, and I knew I had to make sure that if you look at you know, we lost Dean Winnard in the warm-up against League Town, and Ollie Muir, who'd been ill for 3 weeks, came in, had to go off, ended up going to hospital at half time. Thankfully, he came through that and was good to come to the final. So I wasn't too bothered about the Tuesday and the Saturday. As I said before, I know what I got in my dressing room. I know it was about making sure I could get the majority of them on the pitch, particularly in defensive positions. In terms of where it ranks, in terms of what we've been able to do, it's up there. You know, to get to the end of the season, people on the inside know how many injuries and things we've had to deal with internally since Christmas mainly, but even before that, it's up there, you know, in terms of resilience, because some days, you know, Fridays and Saturdays, even a training on a Thursday, you get some dark days as a football manager when you think you're going in to coach something and then suddenly you lose 2 players or whatever. But thankfully we stuck at it. We had a process that we went through. As you say, to go to Workington, who were a very good side and win, and then to go to Runcorn, who were probably the form side at that time, and win, you know, is great credit to the players.
Obviously, you obviously came in just the year we went down. Do you feel like obviously next season with obviously good pre-season, a good squad, you're more equipped to do better in the NPL this time around? Obviously, I know you came in February, but you know, feel you're better equipped to.
A very different club when I came in. You know, it was a very different club to what it is today. And I know people say you never want to be relegated, and you don't. You know, anyone who says, "Oh, it's the best thing that's happened to the club," I don't agree with that. I think you can change things in a football club without being relegated. I think the relegation was harsh in the way it happened, but it happened. You know, when we came in, we were quite short in certain areas, particularly at the top end of the pitch. I think from a forward perspective, I think we only had Dan at that time. Really, we brought Niall in. I think we went on a silly run of something like 1-7, drew 1, lost 1, and then he broke his ankle at Hendersford. And trying to replace another forward at that time was very difficult. But we're a totally different club now than we were then. And I think you guys, as passionate supporters who've been around a lot longer than me, support Marine, can vouch for that. I think internally as a football club, we've moved on greatly, and that was part and parcel of why I signed a contract back in was it December with COVID? I can't remember, year before last. It was about the need to move forward and how it was embraced from a committee perspective and to move forward. And I think I've said this before, where I've been able to shape my own way of doing things.
That's great. And I mean, for you as well, with looking at like Macclesfield coming into the league next season, how important was it to get promotion this time around?
I'll be honest with you, Adam. I don't worry about other teams at all. I don't worry about Mark. It was important to get promotion for Marine Football Club this time around, and nobody else. Mac are a fantastic football club doing great things. Very similar to what I was doing when I was Chester manager, and that model coming through. But I don't worry about other clubs. If you worry about other clubs, then you won't sleep at night. You won't be able to do yours. All I've got to do is worry about my club, worry about my players, do the best that I can do. At the end of the day, you can only play 11. It's about making sure you've got a squad of players, and that's the difference, I think, between the teams that progress and the teams that don't quite make it. That they have a good 11, 12, 13 players that will beat anybody at any given time, or most teams at any given time. But over a season, I think it's proven with us. I think we had the squad to do it, but unfortunately, we got that many injuries. Even 11, 12, 13 wasn't. I thought we had 18, 19, 20, whatever our squad was, of really good players, and that was the way we set up. But I do think over a season, if you don't have that squad depth, and that's usually through budgets or players, that's where you'll fall down. You'll nick results, you'll win games, you probably, people think you won't win. But over the season, you'll be hovering around the playoffs, top 10 positions. And I think from a squad perspective, that was proven more so in the 2 playoff games.
Yeah, as you touch on that, do you think, obviously, when I watch into after Runcorn, do you think that showed the bench, how important was the bench? Because I think Callum McIntyre alluded to it, didn't he, saying players we brought on could probably go in any other team in the league. So do you think that was important kind of thing to have that big squad, really?
I get the comment a little bit, but at the end of the day, we haven't had that option throughout most of the season. We put a team together and a squad together for the purpose of making sure that, as I've just said, that we can compete on all fronts where we can. Unfortunately, we've had lots and lots of injuries. When we're going into the Runcorn game, go back to experiences of big games or cup finals or playoff finals or whatever that we've been involved in. I know going in, a part of my plan from Tuesday to Saturday was scenarios. I had scenario, if this happens, if we're winning, if we're losing, if we're getting beat, by 2, what scenario we implement and how early we implement it. And going in early with the subs was a risk, a big risk. But it was the thing that was planned beforehand, to go early with intensity, with Owen's intensity, and David's intensity and Lewis's quality. And when we brought the subs on, I thought second half we were better anyway, but when we put the subs on, that intensity, I thought they looked tired pretty quickly. And they're a good side, young side. But yeah, as I say, the subs changed the game on that day. But the lads in between put a decent effort in.
I think also in that, just to go on about that, I mean, for my personal, I thought Runcorn kind of scored too early and they didn't know where to stick or twist. And I think, as we talked about before, experience, we don't really panic in that situation. We just kept, because obviously we've been in these big games last 2 or 3 years, haven't we? So I think, do you feel like, obviously, again, it's experience what we're talking about, really, isn't it? In these guys' games.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's like anything. People talk about relegation, good to go down. Is an early goal. A goal's a goal. If you want to score, one in the first minute or the 90th minute, first of all, you've got to get one. So scoring too early, I think it's a cliche. I think in some cases it's probably right. But in terms of the game, I just thought we've hit the post, we've had chances. Balls whipped across the box, but I think if people are a bit more on the front foot, go and score. And goals change games, however you look at it. And our record from falling behind in games wasn't great. I reminded the lads about that on the Monday before the Tuesday game at Workington, how poor our record from coming behind was, but how good our record was when we are in front. But I think going back to the Runcorn game, it's about making sure that when it's easy as a manager when your team's winning, isn't it? It's we just keep going. You earn your corn, or you use your experience when the team needs you. I can't expect the team to do everything I've got to help the team, and how I help the team or the staff help the team on that day was by bringing in onto the pitch Lewis, Owen, and David. The 11 lads have done a real good shift, and then the 3 lads came in. We know what each of them players bring, and most of it, if you look at it, and David and Owen is momentum, will to win, and Lewis has that little bit of quality.
With the team as well, are you expecting the bulk of this team to stay as it is, or are you expecting to bring in some new arrivals, with us being in a league above now, being a more attractive team to come and join?
I think it goes back to Michael's point before. I don't think he answered it properly, really. It's around, and you guys might tell me I'm wrong here, but I would think in the 8 years previous in this division, or roughly 8 years, and I'm surmising here that I think we've probably been in the bottom 6, Marine, in this league previously for a long part of that. So that can't happen again. We can't look to just be happy going into that league, and then. But likewise, we've got to make sure it's a reality for the supporters, because we've had the FA Cup run. We've now been promoted. We're not suddenly going to go and blitz a league. We'll be doing our best in it, trying our best. But I think the key thing is at the moment, having discussions with the club around playing budgets, which we're nearly confirmed on. And that will ultimately dictate which way we go with the playing staff. We are going to need new faces. There's no doubt about that. There's lads out of contract who will be offered new contracts. There's lads on contract already for next year. So just bringing it all together. But the first thing we've got to do is understand what the playing budget will be. I know the club are really working really hard to give us the maximum that they can. And then we've got a meeting later this week to profile exactly what we're going to do between now and when we're back in pre-season training, back end of June.
You talked about, obviously, the injuries, yeah. And obviously in that run from like January to, how happy with January to April, how happy was with people like Neil Kennedy and Ian Barrigan playing in, left back and areas that they probably don't enjoy playing, but he did for the good of the team. So how happy was you with them, them 2 players doing that job? Like,
I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it goes back to the squad, and people talk about, how did we get them off the last 2 games? We got that togetherness. Don't get me wrong. I think every time I mention a name, Kenji, as a wing back, I think he probably under his breath told me what he thought of me, if I'm honest. But needs must, when you've got no centre backs, you have to find a way, and that usually meant going to 3 at the back. And then we had no left back, obviously. Joycey left us, and then we brought Joe in, and Joe got injured. James had a few games of suspension and injury himself, and illness. So, needs must, the only left-hand side player that we had. And speaking to Neil, he played left back as an academy player at Rochdale. And I think if you look at his performances in that position, particularly at Prescott, he was excellent. But what we did miss, obviously, was his goal return in them areas. So yeah, it's not ideal. It's not something that we wanted to happen. But the only area really that we didn't really suffer a lot of injuries was in the forward positions. So that meant that we were overloaded in one area, but very short in others. I mean, if you go to Cone, I had Ryan Wignall playing one side, I think, and I had Neil playing the other, because we just, and then he had, when we finished the game, I think I had one midfielder and two forwards playing in midfield positions, because that's where we were at that time.
So, with everything that's gone on then, how grueling it's been, and the absolute joy that you've brought to the Marine fans, do you feel on the day, particularly when you came back to the MTA after the win at Runcorn, you see the crowd there, do you feel like it was just like an outpouring of emotion for everything that we've gone through, particularly as well as supporters had missed out on the third round, and you know we were the seconds away from another giant killing against Wrexham? So what was it like for you as the leader, essentially, of the entire club, to come back and see that reception?
Proud, very proud. I think I've said for many years now, when people have asked me, and more so, it started when I was at Chester. Obviously, as you get a little bit older, obviously you're elated and you're very proud of what you've achieved, because you work hard at it as a manager and a group of staff. But I get more pleasure out of making people happy, because at the end of the day, managers go into football clubs for a period of time. Football supporters, it's their football club, you know, and I go back to, as I say, I got more joy when I was at Chester, seeing the smiles on people's faces from running a football club and getting them promotions, etc., etc. And then when it came to Marine, obviously the first 4 months were difficult, because it involved a relegation, and the how people felt on that last day, getting on that bus, you know, to come home from Farsley, and you know, when you've got the chairman and people at the football club who've been here a long, long time, never been relegated, and you're part of it, that's difficult. But you've got to believe in yourself, and I think if you speak to James Leary and people around the club, it was a case of putting a plan together, and that plan we've been working on for a number of years, around the way we change things, how we improve standards, what we do as a football club, what we do from a recruitment perspective, what I do in terms of everything football. And to go back to your question, I think off the back of Tottenham and Colchester, Chester and Havant and Waterlooville, and the coverage that we've got without no supporters, and then to see the amount of supporters getting behind the team this year, coming into the MTA, travelling away with us, even in the sticky times after Christmas, when, let's be honest, I know what's going on, because I've been in the game a long time, and I know, but football, to a lot of football supporters, it's my team's lost again, or you know, particularly the younger fans, my team's lost again, and we haven't scored, or we haven't done this, and we haven't done that. So I get that side of it as well. So with all the stress of January to April of the injuries, and not being able to field the team that I believe, you know, potentially would have won the league, but you know, you've got to give great credit to Rylands for the run they went on after Christmas, which was phenomenal. To bring the promotion back to the MTA on that night, I had a similar situation when I was a Chester manager. We went back, we beat Wrexham away, and I came back to Chester, and it was like we'd won the league. We'd only beat Wrexham, but it was like we'd won the league, and it was very similar scenes when we came back to the MTA last week. Very proud moments, as I said. But as I say, most satisfying thing for me, and people can say, "Oh no, you're just saying that." The most satisfying thing for me is to see you guys and all the supporters, and particularly the younger supporters, because I think we've had a massive influx of younger supporters, which is excellent. I love it when we see next generation and the next generations coming through to support the club. Have that delight, getting autographs, getting photographs. You know, that's more pleasing for me when I sit down afterwards, after the event, and taking everything that happened.
Yeah.
So, Neil, do you feel that Marine can push on then over the next few seasons, given the foundations that have been laid now? And how far can you see you taking Marine?
I don't know how far we can take Marine. I think we've just got to make sure that we're building going forward. I think that's what we've been doing now for the last 3 years. And I think that will continue. I know there's plans off the field, you know, obviously new pitches coming in the summer, and that's currently underway. you know, we're looking at other things from the football perspective to keep improving what we can do to take the club forward. And I think you just got to take it step by step. I wouldn't like to say, oh, we're going to do this or we're going to do that. All I can say is, it's, you know, I'm not here, certainly not here to stand still. The minute I start standing still is the time for me to go. You know, it's about progression, it's about moving forward. You know, I couldn't think of anything worse than just turning up and, you know, playing a game and nothing else to it. I think you've got to be striving to improve. And as I say, that's what our intentions are. And what I don't want to do is give people false hope. We're going into a very difficult division, a much more difficult division than what we were in last time. But looking forward to the challenge, and you know, we'll be ready once it comes about. As I say, got a lot of work to do between now and pre-season, and even more work to do between pre-season and the first game of the season. But the key thing is having the willingness to do it, knowing what you need to do, and wanting to improve. If you've got all those things, and you've got the people wanting to do exactly the same as you, and you can stay enthused with it, then you will go forward.
That's brilliant.
Obviously, going the last 3 years, yeah, you've reached obviously the third round of the FA Cup, and obviously theoretically you've got them up straight back. I mean, how proud of them achievements, really?
Of the achievements, as I say, with success, you're always proud of what you do. As I said earlier, you know, since we've been at Marine, who would have said when we first came in we'd have a third round FA Cup tie, another great run in the FA Cup against Salford, a great run in the FA Cup, and almost knocking out the current league leaders of the National League, on the referee decision in the 96th minute, and it doesn't grate me, honest. But yeah, we've had a very good 18 months, 2 years in terms of performances and what we've achieved. But as I said again, you know, going back to a point I made earlier, most people in football and on your social media platforms quickly forget what's been achieved. You know, you can have promotions and you can have this, that, and the other, but the minute you don't succeed in A-League, or you don't make a good start, people tell you you're out of your depth, you're finished, you're too old. I've heard it all before. You know, but as I said earlier, you know, you don't need to worry about other people. You don't need to worry about, I know what I've done. I know what my staff have done. I know what's been achieved over a long period of time. I know when we've not done so well, what I've done wrong. But the key thing is, we go back to it, we keep using the word experience. The key thing is, people are reliant on me to use my experience when I came into Marine. You know, I'm thankful and grateful that I've been able to use that to get the club, you know, into a great position in the FA Cup, which has given us, you know, a great platform financially to improve the whole football club. You know, people think about, I heard someone say last week about, Marine should be getting promoted with their financial might or something. When you're successful, people say you've got a lot of money. When you're not so successful, you don't know what you're doing and you're out of your depth, so you can't win. So there's no point me getting worried about what other people think. I know what I've got in my staff. I know what I need to do. I think James Leary will definitely tell you I'm probably as intense a person that he's probably worked with. So, you know, it's a case of striving to improve. We've improved a lot over the last 3 years, and now's the next phase of that. On the back of a promotion and going in the league we are, with the teams in there and the budgets and the infrastructures that some of the clubs have got in there, we have to improve to compete. And that's what we'll be doing. You know, we won't be standing still. It might not happen right away, and it might be a period of consolidation, not from a football perspective, just in terms of things take a period of time. But we'll be moving that on as fast as we can. You know, we want to take the club forward, and we can definitely take this club forward.
Given the outstanding success as well of Glyn's under-23s and the outstanding season they enjoyed, is there anyone from the under-23s that you see breaking through into the first team for the next season?
It's a difficult one because obviously they've got a promotion, but we've got one. That gap, particularly when you're dealing with under 23 players, is a fairly big gap. Alex McNally, who's obviously been with us for most of the season, on and off, been out on loan at Bersco, has done really well. He's got a fantastic attitude, and it's about to see where they're at and how they progress. What we can't do is put them in too early, I think, is the key bit. But if you look at young Alex, he's big, strong boy. He's unbelievable attitude. You know, if a lot of people had his attitude, they go a long way. So young Alex will have a chance. The other boys, as you said, have had a fantastic season to win any league undefeated. You know, and reach a cup final, and it goes back to what I was saying earlier around where we were 3 years ago. From, you know, we changed the reserves to an under 23s and went down a different route and a philosophy. And Kevin first started off, and then obviously Glyn came in, and now they've gone on the back of finished, you know, winning the league undefeated. You know, and that says a lot about what's been achieved at that level. So off the pitch, on the pitch, clubs improving. What we can't do is stand still. You know, and that's supporters included. You know, it's everybody. We've got to work together. We've got to try and sell more season tickets than we've ever sold for next year. And on the back of that, I've got to try and produce a team that everyone's proud of and does really well in the league that we're in and off the field. The club keeps improving, keeps striving to improve commercially, which I know they're doing, from an infrastructure perspective, which I know they're doing. New pitch, the community's thriving. The new pitch will help that as well. So I keep going back where we were when we first came into the football club to where we are now. Believe me, it's massive, massive strides.
Just touching on the pitch there, and I know you wasn't too happy with it towards the last end. Are you happy that not only that it's going to be a good surface, but the fact that obviously the under 21s are going to be like connected to basically one facility now, isn't it? So you're happy with going 3G? Like,
I think it's got its pluses, a lot of pluses, and its minuses, obviously. But you have to weigh everything up and get in the real world that we have more than one football club playing on our pitch. So if we continue with the current arrangements and have 2 or 3 teams playing on it, and you know, and no irrigation system, it becomes very difficult for any ground. You get the best ground in the world, but if that pitch is getting played on 3 times a week or whatever, it's very difficult. But in terms of a 4G pitch, I think if it suits Marine, it really suits Marine because it allows other clubs to play on the pitch, AFC Liverpool and the academy, with Elite and obviously the under 23 team, the ladies team. But it also, from a first team perspective, gives us a training hub because you're here, there, and everywhere training. You know, and you can't sit down, you can't have proper meetings, you can't do proper analysis. You know, but we'll have a training hub, we'll have a base to work from, which will obviously be the ground, which for me is probably the biggest plus because you can basically put yourself there. That's your home, and you can leave stuff there, and you can get set up early and things like that. You're not waiting for people to come off to go on, and virtually, you know, and we'll train there as a group and as a football club, and it just brings the whole football club together, I think, and helps build communication again between all the groups, Marine groups, and obviously then leads into the community use as well.
Yeah. And then going forward with the community side, and we have the Marine in the community, and you were saying there about, you know, appealing now to even more supporters to come down to the MCA to watch it. Of course, promotion, winning promotion is always going to help with that push. What message would you say to new supporters who've maybe caught 1 or 2 games, or maybe even considering, you know, coming down and taking up non-league football?
I think it's twofold, really. I think, you know, the main thing is to thank the people who've played such a big part this year, from a supporters' perspective, home and away. Those people who've been down for 1 game, 2 games, or 20, 30 games, or people who've covered every game, you know, it's a big thank you to them. And the people who are the floating fan, as we may call them, we may go and watch Liverpool, Everton, in between. Hopefully they've seen enough in the time they've been there. Maybe not so much after Christmas, but I think it's about that feel-good factor. I think football nowadays is not like the old days where we used to go to the game. It was all about what you're seeing on the pitch. I think football now is an experience. It's for a supporter. I think it's from getting there early, being able to get a drink or to watch a game, or take your kids and get burgers, and having that platform for the fans to get closer to the players, and particularly younger fans, to have photographs. And we'll be working on if we can get some sort of relationship with the community around the younger fans, and how we go into schools, etc. I think is really key. We've done a lot of that at Chester, because the next fan is the younger fan, the next generation. And I think we've just got to make sure that we do things right. Whatever we do things right. One thing I will say about Marine, we've got, even in my time here, there's things being done wrong, but usually they're quite quick to put it right. And when that decision's been made, I've always found, and I get them made on my side as well, which affects me, people haven't realised the consequences of maybe of a decision or whatever. So there's a real appetite to take the club forward and improve the football club. And it's a learning curve for everyone. It's like anything. We keep using the word experience. A lot of people, will it be fans, committee, have been in and around Marine for a long time. I've come in probably with a little bit more of a new set of eyes, if you like, but I've been at numerous clubs and seen how different things work, and been able to bring them ideas, the good and the bad, to hopefully give people ideas. But I do think linking back in with the younger fan and the fans in general is key, and hopefully, as you say, we'll get more down to the MTA. We'll get more travelling away. That's the bit I like. I like the away fans as well. They seem to make a lot more noise. I don't know if that's the 10 pints on the 2-hour journey to the ground.
Definitely it's 10 pints.
It is. Admittedly, yeah.
But the atmosphere is really helps. It's incredible. You only have to look at the games this week, don't you? You've been on the telly. You look at our two local clubs in Liverpool and Everton. The atmospheres that they create. I know that I watched Wrexham Stockport today, and the atmosphere in that game, and how big a part the supporters can play in helping a team, particularly a team like ours, who have been mainly younger players, get over the line. And that support, I don't think people realise. I'm not just saying it because we're on here doing a fan podcast, because it's there to see at most clubs. But that support, particularly with younger players, how it brings them on to give them a confidence to develop, to improve, to allow them to be better in games. I see that as a manager, because I know the lads who lack a little bit of confidence, and if they make a mistake, go within their shells. But you go back to Workington and you go back to Runcorn, and apart from probably 10 minutes at Workington, where I've seen one or two wavering a little bit, and I had a few choice words, and then maybe 10 minutes at Runcorn when it wasn't happening for us, just before half time. The confidence in the players in them two games to come back, is something that we've not shown. So it proves that get behind the team, get behind the players. We all do it together. We all, there's going to be times when, we don't do it right and we get things wrong. But all I can say is that as the manager of the football club, everything we do is with the best intentions of winning football matches. And sometimes, although I can't come out and communicate it, nothing drives me more mad than I haven't got lads on a Saturday or lose 4 players from Thursday to Saturday, because from a managerial perspective, it's a nightmare, because I know I'm the one who's going to be judged. But hopefully there's an element of trust there that not allows me to lose football matches, because I can't lose football matches, but there's an element of trust that says he knows what he's doing, and hopefully that will continue.
I mean, something we've said, that I reckon, the connection, it's like obviously the connection back to MTA when we won that Runcorn. As something we said, I think, the fact, don't appreciate how important fans are, and as you said, at Workington, it's a long journey and stuff like that. And there is going to be moments in games where the players do need lifting, isn't it? So it's really important, isn't it? As you just mentioned.
you don't realise how important it's a buzzword, isn't it? How important fans are. But if you've got young players who are doubting themselves in a game, and they do, you know, I can see it because I see them all the time, and I've seen it over a long period. It's not just this team; I've seen it over a long period, and they will have ups and downs. But if you've got people behind, it's like anything, isn't it? Us all. If you've got people behind you supporting you, trying to help you get through those moments, then that is always going to help. That is always going to help. And as I say, particularly away from home, because usually you've got a lot more home supporters than away supporters. But our support's been fantastic. And as I said before, I'm just glad on the back of Tottenham last year. We talk about Tottenham. I always go back to Colchester because that was, for me, the game in that cup run. But going back to that, you know, not being able to have any fans there, but then to be able to deliver what everyone's wanted, a promotion, is, you know, from my perspective, is very satisfying.
I mean, when you come out as well and you see the flags that have all come up, and you see there's only 2 managers who have a flag, and that's Rolly Howard for obvious reasons, and then yourself. And you see your mug adorned.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that mean to you as well? You know, to have your place, you know, now in marine folklore.
Well, you've just named the biggest marine legend ever in Rolly. You know, what he done for the football club and achieved was incredible. So just be mentioned in the same breath as Rolly, for me, I shouldn't be. You know, I've only been in a very short space of time, and yet we have achieved things that have not been achieved previously in terms of the FA Cup run. But we've got a lot to do. You know, we've got a lot to do, and I think from my perspective, I've learned over the years not to get too high, but also not to get too low. And again, that only comes with experience. I just wish you'd wait till I'd had my turkey hair done before you had the flag done. I was hoping the chairman's going to get me as a promotion bonus, a new goof on, but no. As I say, I'm very happy that we've been able to do. As I said before, it's about making people happy, making people's weeks better, weekends better, hangovers worse, better, however you look at it. That's how I see my job, and as I say, to be even mentioned, I shouldn't be mentioned, but even to be mentioned in the same breath as Rolly is, you know, again, is very, very satisfying.
We did think that the flag was cursed because it was in the January, wasn't it, Michael? That's when things started to go a bit wrong. Oh God, we've cursed the team.
might have put them off my face behind the goal.
Just lastly, obviously I know the playoffs are standout, but what's your standout game this season? Really, is it the final playoff, or is this been the game that you think that's been like
this season? I think my standout game since I've been at the club for me is Colchester United away. It is, and that's up there with the games I've managed in my career. In terms of this season, I thought was it 5 Workington games? Did we play Workington 5 times?
I think we did, didn't we?
Yeah.
Cup 4, is it?
Twice in the cup, wasn't it?
Twice in the cup,
because it was a replay, yeah. So yeah, 5.
So 5 times. I think all them games were proper football matches for this level. I think ding dong, 2 good teams going at it, hammer and tongue. Obviously, if I had to pick one out of all of them, I'd probably say the playoff semi-final. But I think the 2-1 home win when David Lynch scored, a great goal volley, I think that's up there. But I think, you know, semi-final, the one you'll always remember is the semi-final and the final, because that's what gets you to where you want to be. I'm very proud of what we achieved in the final, you know, in terms of Runcorn, because they'd had an unbelievable season, and particularly towards the end of the season when they were winning games under pressure from Clitheroe. You know, that's difficult to do, particularly with young players. But the way we went there, and although we won 2-1, and I thought we were much stronger in the game, and that showed another side to us that, you know, and confirmed everything I thought about the players that I'd signed when we when we put this squad together. I think, you know, they're the two that stick out, obviously.
Just running through the results there, as you say, with Workington, and, you know, I'll go on record and I'll say Workington and Marine were the two biggest clubs in the league. I'm not going to say the best teams, because I think over 38 games, the best team always comes out on top, and congratulations to Rylands on winning promotion. But with the way them games went, and correct me if I'm wrong here, it was 3 wins, 1 draw and 1 defeat, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So by law, after beating them 3 times, we get to keep Workington now, don't we?
Well, if you want to go back up there, mate, you're more than welcome. But I won't be going with you.
No, they can keep their healthy green glow.
I'll be honest. Workington's a great football club, you know, and the people around the football club, lovely people. You know, we've had some great battles with them. You know, we've had some, you know, as you say, we've won the majority, but they've won one. But proper football, they were proper football matches at the level for me. Tactically, intensity of the games, you know, decisions that to be making games, you know, proper games, and from a managerial perspective, you know, why you're in it, and you know, each one of them games was a real challenge.
Touching on Workington, I know obviously when they lost the league on the last day, do you think that, you know, gave us a lift a bit and them a bit? You know, because obviously when you lose the league on the last day, and especially bottom of the league when they really should have won, I think they obviously caused them a little bit of mental, you know, do you feel it, don't you, a little bit? Or do you think it just goes out the window of the semi-final?
No, I think when that happens to you, mentally, that would, you know, we can all say it wouldn't, but I think definitely it'd definitely have an effect on you, I think. They're a bit more experienced in terms of their squad and their players. But then, knowing that you're coming up against the Marine side that's beat you 2 weeks previous, because if they probably would have won that game against us, they probably would have won the league as well. You know, that would have given them momentum. So yeah, mentally, I would expect, I don't know, I would expect that to be very, very deflating. I don't think it lifted us anymore. We knew what we had on. We knew how tough a game it was going to be. I think going away from home probably helped us, because you know the size of the task. You know where you're going. You know it's a long trip. We've done a lot of work. We changed the way we do things. We've done a lot of work on the Monday before the Tuesday game. So the lads, to be fair, have been in Saturday. Obviously the league game, we had them in Monday. We obviously travelled Tuesday. They were in Thursday, going through everything for Saturday. So, you know, it was a long week, long, hard week, and both mentally and travel-wise for our lads, because, you know, we train in various places. Obviously, a trip to Workington, getting home at, well, I got home at 10:45 to 3 in the morning, so everyone would be roughly the same. So it was a big ask. But I go back to what I said before. I knew what I had in my dressing room. You might say, well, it's easy to say that now. You've been promoted. But, you know, believe me or you don't, I knew what we had. It was just a case of making sure we could get them as close to fitness as we possibly could. And we managed to do that in the main, you know, barring a couple. You know, Josh Owen Davis had hardly played. We'd lost the other lads from the defence. Obviously, Ben Hughes had come in towards the end, scored against Workington, then got injured with his ankle. Clarkey came in, hamstring injury. Colossia, Doyley done something similar. We're trying to manage them two between them. James Barrigan got suspended. So it was a team when Ard was playing with a bad knee for probably the best part of the last 6 weeks. So many challenges, but luckily for us, we came out on top in the end, and that was the main thing.
Keelan Adams, he's the first player Marine I've paid a transfer fee for since, I believe it was 1995, could have been 97, but you're looking at least 25 years. So was it yourself or John who's identified Keelan, and what does that say about the commitment from the committee to you as a manager to support you with paying a transfer fee?
Keelan was my decision. Keelan was someone I identified last year, playing for Clitheroe, believe it or not, or 18 months ago, playing for Clitheroe at Mosley, and then the game after at home to somebody, I can't remember if he played. done really well. Tried to sign him when he left Clitheroe to go to Macclesfield, but obviously we were a little bit late. Macclesfield had already done the deal, and we didn't think we were going to do him. We thought we didn't think it was on. We tried for a number of weeks to bring him into the club, and Macclesfield at the time were obviously going for the league themselves. And then later on, we managed to get it done, and it was always planned to be done in the summer, but we managed to do it before the summer. But as I've said to Keelan, he was more signed for next year than this year. You've got to take your chances when you can in terms of players. I see something in him. He's big, he's strong, he's quick. He's got all the attributes. We need to get his confidence. We need to get him confidence. But in terms of non-league forwards, he's got all the tools. Now it's my job and the coach's job to give him that confidence and belief in himself, to bring that out. You know, because he's in there with some real good forwards, some good players who've developed over a number of years. And you have to look at the lad everyone's spoke about through the playoffs, and Neil Kenji, who he took from not playing at Staley Bridge to a lad now who's played, I think we played 52 games this year, and I think Neil played 50 of them or 49 of them without a pre-season. If you remember, he never done most of pre-season because he got a bad injury in pre-season on his knee. But we took the decision at Newcastle Town on the first game of the season to put him in, and his own belief and his own fitness and his own work rate allowed him to get to the levels that we did. As you say, he played out of position a number of times, but he's developed as a footballer, and he's developed within himself, and hopefully we'll be able to do something similar in terms of working on his own development and his own confidence with Keelan as we did with Neil.
You touch on, obviously, before we finish, touch on Neil Kenji there. As you said, he didn't even get it. He wasn't even playing for Staley Bridge, innit? How have you been able to turn him? Because I was here on the pitch, I mean, at Workington, you just feel like he's going to score a goal. He's got that bit of X factor, hasn't he? That a lot of non-league players haven't got. You can score from anywhere, really.
I think what you've got to do, Michael, the first thing you've got to do is realise where you are, and I call it in the where you are in non-league football and what you're going to be able to bring to your football club. If it's a player that's already developed and already there, we ain't signing him, because there's clubs got a lot more money, can play. He can play. They can play a lot higher. So you've got to try and find players that you believe have got a chance. You believe you've seen something in them that can take them forward. Neil Kenji being one. I've watched Neil a few times at Staley Bridge. Really liked him. He played up front once on his own when he went down to 10 men. Really liked him, and I noticed he wasn't getting in. And what you find with these younger players, give them confidence and watch them fly. If you've spotted something in them, if you give them confidence and they're willing to put the work rate in themselves, they'll find a way. They'll get back to where you think they can get to. And I think Neil Kenji is a perfect example of that. And as I say, I see something similar in Keelan, and hopefully we can do the same with Keelan. But we have a lot of young players at the football club who have done really well for their age. Have done really well for their age and the pressure. I'm not going to name every one of them, but everyone knows the age of the squad: Bailey Passant, Josh Solomon Davis, Mark Howarth, Jay Devine. They're just the names off the top of my head in terms of their age bracket of 20, 21, 22 years of age. Lewis Riley is at that age as well. Owen Watkinson. So we've got a lot of young players who good attitudes, and I'm sure will go on in their careers to bigger and hopefully better things.
That's great, Neil. We'll call it time there, and I really appreciate you joining us tonight, and congratulations on what has been a fantastic end to what was started as an absolutely brilliant season. Got a bit difficult in the middle, but as you say, extenuating circumstances. But again, you've delivered what was asked of you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Neil. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Boys.
See you soon. Take care.
Bye bye.